Welcome to another episode of Obscured Reality. Join your host, Mark, as he takes you through a journey of the extraordinary, bizarre, and often frightening world of the unknown. Explore topics of the paranormal, UFOs, alien abduction, lost civilizations, mythical monsters, and other unexplained mysteries. Come along with us as we transcend into another dimension of obscured reality.
Always ready.
I was gonna say, if you're right, I'm like.
And she said that on Obscured Reality. You heard it here first again. We're back.
The mythical morning reference.
Mark?
Yes, hello.
No reference, just referencing. I don't know.
You said Brett.
But-
Ready. Link.
Ready.
Anyways.
Ready. Yeah,
Anyways.
we're back. What do we got tonight? I think Stephanie's got something for us. I'm curious to hear what this is about. Let's see. What do you got?
I actually ran across an article the other day, kind of talking about how they say they have solved the mystery of Jack the Ripper. And I was like,
really?
yeah. So I was like, all right, that's an interesting one. There's I could literally write up an episode for every single potential subject that there was. So to keep that to a minimum, I'm trying just to focus tonight on like the victims, the details of the murders, and then also there's another one that I'm going to touch on that some people think it might have been part of the Ripper series. Other people think it was a copycat, but we'll get into that.
Okay. I'm curious though. Where did you hear this? Do you recall?
I mean, the internet.
Well, the internet.
It was one of my Google articles that I get. Yeah.
Not a particular news channel or anything, right?
I mean, if I search it right now, I could probably pull up a couple
not
main
you
ones, but
heard it off
I
of.
don't recall the actual website because I was just like, oh, and I clicked it real fast, and so I was really excited about it.
Okay, because I just pulled up Jack the Ripper, and an article came up. I didn't read it, obviously. The first one that comes up is, well, this is going to depend on what browser you're using, apparently, but News Nation, and I believe Ross Coulthart is affiliated with News Nation. I could be wrong, but he lost me with this egg UAP that he claimed was for reals. So I'm glad you didn't say News Nation. Oh yeah, no, it is one of the first ones. There it is. Yep, News Nation. So what's going on? Let's hear this.
All right. Okay. So, Jack the Ripper. Let's see. So, okay. It was more along the concentrated during the autumn of 1880. It left an indelible mark on London. Sorry, I'm slightly sick, so if I sniffle my whole way through it, I apologize. 5 women by the names of Marianne Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly, who are also known as the Canonical Five, were brutally murdered and tortured pretty much in what is a very, very poor district called Whitechapel.
Okay.
And it wasn't just like killings, like they weren't just like mere killings. Like these were absolute brutal mutilations.
Was there anything special or in particular about the women he murdered?
They were all prostitutes. Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of the women of that area, it was like so I was so darn poor that a lot of the women had to resort to that just to get by. Unfortunately, during the turn of that century, it was very common for that to happen. Like if a woman lost her husband and she didn't have, any family, there's a lot of reasons. Either way. But the brutal attacks, like just the nature of the brutality just shows that the killer had an absolute hatred for women and femininity. Like just due to you'll understand why in a minute.
Wonder if it's
Um,
that or if it's just prostitution.
well, you'll understand why a lot of people think that it was a a hatred for femininity in women based on some of the organs that were missing. So first off, Marianne Nichols was discovered on August 31st of 1888 at approximately 3:40 in the morning. She was discovered on a road called Bucks Row. Doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. And she was found with her throat slashed open. It was cut so deep that it went almost all the way to her spine, and her abdomen, like, wow, I can't talk
Abdomen.
today. Abdomen was ripped open.
What was this chick's name?
Her name was Marianne Nichols, Nichols Nichols. She was the first of the five. A couple, a week later, Annie Chapman was found on Hanbury Street. Her injuries were actually even more extensive than Nichols. She also had her throat slashed. She had her abdomen ripped open, but evidence shows that she actually had her uterus removed as well.
Hmm.
That was the only organ out of her that was missing, was in fact her
And-
uterus
And her bladder.
and her
Sections of her bladder.
sections.
Oh,
Yeah,
and the vajayjay gone.
yeah, that was part of the mutilation. Yes. Yeah,
Well,
as per internal organs.
Here's, I mean, not that there's a good thing about it, right?
Mhm.
But if you got to look on the bright side, at least from what I'm seeing so far, the throats were cut first. Because could you imagine going through that stuff prior to dying? I mean, that would
Yeah,
be.
but you have to you gotta think that these people were he probably brutally raped them and then probably beat them, and dying from having your throat cut isn't necessarily fast or painless.
No, but
So
rather than having the torturous part first,
this is true.
that's
This is true.
what I'm saying. Obviously, none of it's good, but
Hmm. Later on that month, on September 30th, Elizabeth Stride was the least disfigured of all of the five. A lot of people think that possibly someone interrupted the killing, and that's why it was just her throat that was slashed, and she had like bruising around her shoulder and her neck area. But she still had obviously all of her organs, and her body wasn't as disfigured as obviously her counterparts. But however, later that night, actually not even, but like an hour later, Catherine Eddowes was discovered in a place called Meter Square, or Mitre. Either way, this location is actually quite significant because it's within the city of London when all the other one of his murders happened over in Whitechapel, which was, I believe, a southern or western district. I believe it was southern district of London. Her body also bore similar horrific injuries to Chapman's. Her throat was cut, her abdomen was mutilated, signs of disembowelment. Again, organs have been removed. However, a piece of her apron was found nearby, which started off a whole nother, and there was some graffiti by her apron, and that started off a whole different thing. Not gonna touch on that. That's a whole nother story. Finally, the last canonical victim was actually found in her room in Dorset Street, November 9th. And this poor woman, she was definitely the most gruesome of them all because obviously he was in a room and not on a street in an alley. So he had time. Her body was subjected to extreme mutilation that went beyond anything that was seen in other victims. Kelly's body was found lying on the bed. Her face had been hacked beyond recognition. Her body had been disemboweled. Some of her organs, like the others, had been missing, while others were placed on a table near the bed. A lot of the details were too graphic to even describe in the papers of the time, which unfortunately loved reporting on stuff like this because new forms of like printing were being invented. They just found a way to like print pictures, not so much pictures, but like drawings into articles as well. So like everything was sensationalized. So
Sounds familiar.
so the fact that like it was just to the point where even that press was like, "Ooh, not gonna touch that one on some of
Yeah.
those details." Like it was obviously very messed up. The extent, however, of her injuries did leave some people to speculate that her murder might have been a copycat killing, as it did differ somewhat from the methods used for the other four murders. However, she is still considered to be the fifth and final victim of Jack the Ripper,
What was her name?
Mary Jane Kelly.
Okay. Gotcha.
All right. Yeah. So the Ripper's methods, while varying slightly, obviously still shared common connections: throat cutting, abdominal mutilation, and in some cases, organ removal. So that spread to like obviously speculation about his identity. Was he a surgeon, a butcher, someone with access to anatomical knowledge? But
Right.
honestly, like from a perspective now looking back at it, anybody with even a little bit of anatomical education would have been able to have done the removal of certain organs.
Right.
But back then, obviously, they thought that it was
Well, I mean,
a big
also,
deal.
I mean, you could do it without that knowledge. I mean, all you need is a book. And here's the point I'm getting to is who's to say he didn't do this before, just was able to get away with it. Bodies
True.
not found.
I mean,
Maybe
we
he
did
buried 'em
talk about
in
H.H.
practice.
Holmes not too long ago.
What's that?
We did talk about H.H. Holmes not too long ago, and he got away with it for a decent
Yeah,
while.
I'm just saying. I mean, you practice a couple times, and
Yeah.
it's not going to take long before you're good at it. As long as you can recognize organs, and you got
Mhm.
to remember once you make an incision, right? It's not just you open it up and it's like plain as day. There, everything is.
Oh, no.
You really do need to know where you're going.
There's
From
a lot of
everything I've
stuff in
seen.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
not
yeah.
like each organ's just sitting there.
It's
Boom, here you go. So
it's not like in the pictures. Yeah. Thanks for the flashbacks to
hey,
freaking science anatomy class where we had to dissect minks. Thanks for that. Anyways, so the police investigated, obviously, but despite the investigations and the scale of everything, it was incredibly hampered by limitations of the era.
Yeah.
Forensic science just didn't exist, and what did exist was in its absolute infancy. DNA analysis was decades away. Fingerprinting was developing, but not reliable as it is today. And then also there was these Dear Boss letters that supposedly had come from the Ripper and like added to the mystique, taunting police, fueling public fear. Although their authenticity does remain debated by some. Now, the Dear Boss letters were messages obviously originally written by the notorious serial killer, and he's actually, I believe, the first internationally known serial killer, which is why he's so sensationalized upon just the horrific killings himself. It was the notes themselves were addressed to the Central News Agency of London and dated on September 25th, 1888. The letter was postmarked and received by the Central News Agency on the 25th. The letter was then forwarded to Scotland Yard on the 29th. Like I said, many disputed the authenticity of the Dear Boss letters. However, one of them was signed as Jack the Ripper, which is how everyone got the name. They were like, "Ooh, we like that moniker," so that's just what they ran with. So that's how Jack the Ripper got his name.
So, okay. So the name was in one of these letters.
Yeah. It was literally a moniker from one of the letters that may or
If
may
that
not
was a
have been from
copycat,
him.
I mean, that literally Jack the Ripper could completely be referring to not the person, right? If it's who sent the letters was copycat, right? So
Right. All right. But like I had said, I did want to touch on some other things that were happening in the area around the time. They're known as the Whitehall mystery murder or mysteries Whitehall murders. They happened between 1887 and 1889, and the dismembered remains of at least 3 women were discovered in and around Whitehall. Now, Whitehall was the seat of the British government, and it's close to Scotland Yard. So, if our viewers don't know who Scotland Yard is, it's essentially like the main investigative branch of like their police force. They work internationally, kind of like our FBI, CIA.
mhm.
The proximity to the heart of law enforcement added like this particular disturbing elements to the case, and that obviously like scared the public even more because everything scared them, including the shadow back then. But unlike the Ripper victims, these women were actually never identified. Their names, their stories, everything has been lost to time, unfortunately. And oh, I'm sorry. Whitechapel, I was wrong. It's not the South End. It's actually the East End of London. And Whitehall is the heart of London, closer to the city center.
Okay.
The distance between Whitechapel and Whitehall is approximately 3 miles. So I just want to point that out because some people do think that they are related to the Jack the Ripper murders, but it is possible to travel that distance in a reasonable time, considering late 19th century modes of transportation. So I just wanted to put that out there that
Yeah,
is
well, I
one of
mean,
the
even
reasons why.
walking 3 miles isn't a
I
big deal.
mean, yeah, I mean, you can walk 3
I
miles in
can do
like an
that
hour.
up a nasty large hill backpacking to go camping in a portion of it uphill, an hour.
Mhm. Yeah, and it shoot flatland even faster. But yeah,
Yeah,
horse-drawn carriage, like
right.
buggy, it quickly, very quickly could cover that territory. Either way, the Whitehall murders, although they're less famous than the Ripper killings, share a lot of similarities. The bodies were carefully dissected, organs removed, echoing some of the Ripper's methods. One torso was discovered in the basement of a brand new built police headquarters on the Thames
Huh.
embankment in September of 1888, the exact
Uh,
same time the Ripper madness was happening. Uh, so that obviously naturally fuels speculation about a connection. Just imagine
Between
that
maybe what,
unsettling.
law enforcement or someone in law enforcement?
No, the connection between like those murders and the Ripper murders, like
Right.
that it's the same person. A lot of people like I don't know, just imagine the irony, I guess. Like, you know, a dismembered body found within law enforcement itself. It's almost like a taunt to them. But if it was newly built, I highly doubt that it was like staffed. So
Yeah, almost makes me wonder if it could have been a cop because, not that, not that this person shouldn't have been able to get in the police station. Back then, obviously they're not setting up alarms and lights and all this crap, right?
mhm.
So, I would imagine it wouldn't be too hard to get in. However, how much easier is it if you work there, if you have the keys, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna have to be locked up when no one's there, I'm sure. And God, then you can just easily do it. You got to remember too, like if this is the same guy, he's going town to town doing it. These two towns, right? And they're about three
Yeah.
miles apart.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
they're burrows, but yeah.
are you gonna whatever? I mean, same thing. You're gonna ride a horse-drawn carriage in there that makes noise. People see it.
Mhm.
You might get a description. People are gonna recognize that. If you don't live there, and boom, here it's
Yeah.
coming in. Something happens that night. Well, I did see this carriage coming in at like 10 o'clock, or whatever time this guy allegedly was
Oh
doing
yeah.
this. But on foot isn't really a big deal, but what kind of is a big deal is the time that's being taken on the bodies. I mean, one of them torso was found, right?
Yeah.
So some of these we're seeing genitalia cut off, even a portion of the chest on that last one you mentioned,
Mm.
and placed under the head. Heart was missing on one. I mean, that takes time. So,
Mhm.
you know, do you want to get caught walking between towns in the middle of the day? Do you want to get caught in your carriage cruising in and out of there when you don't live there? Um, much easier to be seen, you
Yeah.
know?
So there were differences, obviously, as you know, you've pointed out.
Yeah.
The Whitehall victims were decapitated, which was obviously a feature that was absent during the Ripper murders. The Whitehall killings spanned obviously a longer time, going from 87 to 89. But, that also did overlap the
Which all
Rippers.
falls right in,
Yeah, huh?
you know, which falls right there,
Yeah, it
right in between
overlaps
one.
the work of the Ripper. But that also raises the question, like, were these works of the same hand, or were they
Right.
separate, equally horrific crimes? Which obviously, with one of the bodies showing up in a police uh, building, the police
And then,
department, it just, like you said,
part of me
spurs.
thinks that, if these were maybe two different people doing this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, then Jack the Ripper may be a possible copycat,
Yeah, he may be the
right?
copycat for sure.
And
Yeah.
and and it might not even be a copycat. It might just be some sick person
Oh, yeah.
who's seeing these other ones and going, "Oh, well,
If they could do it, I
let
can do
me
it.
do it, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
show you that I can do it so much better than you. A little more precise. I'm gonna take things. I'm gonna move organs. Get maybe more gruesome than this other
I mean,
person,
they
right?"
literally would kill, like, the body snatchers of London were a real thing. Like, these people would literally kill people to sell their bodies as cadavers to medical schools.
Uh,
It's a
oh
thing.
yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
it's a
yep,
thing. Like, oh, I should do another one on that. Either way, but yeah, the body snatchers of London, completely a real thing. So, like,
yeah.
could it have been two different people? Absolutely. But I just wanted to bring those up simply because they happened around the same time and they kind of had a very similar MO. But
Mhm.
let's be real, yeah, more than likely it was just two people who were both very
I
morbid,
don't know.
messed up
I say more
individuals.
more than likely it was the same
Probably.
person.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Jeez.
there was so many people who lived in London, and
I
there
mean,
was
you think
like,
about this. This is over 100 years ago.
mhm.
Way more sparse. It's not as built up as now. Not nearly as many people as now. Um, and who knows? There's probably a lot of people there. But what are the chances of getting two people that deranged living not just in the same town, but eh, doing these things within a ridiculously close proximity of each other? What are the chances of that? Like, the chances of that now are seem to be slim. Um, Back then, I mean, what are the chances? You
London's
know?
population in 1860 was over 3 million people.
Okay.
So odds are kind of high, especially when
Yeah, I don't
it's
know.
well, I mean, okay, so it's crucial to understand the social context of like these crimes. Late 19th century London was a city of like absolute extremes: poverty, overcrowding, social inequality,
Mhm.
violence against women, prostitution, which was driven by desperation, that made women particularly vulnerable. So, like, yeah, I absolutely believe that, yeah, someone would just
Well,
be like, I hate my life, I hate women, and I'm gonna,
yeah. No,
I see it as a
I
copycat.
I see what you mean,
Yeah.
but I don't agree to the extent that it takes a very, very, very particular special kind of person to do this.
Yeah.
Like, you don't just fly off the rails one day and go, "I hate my life. I'm done, blah, blah, blah. I'm gonna hate prostitutes," or whatever the deal is,
Mm.
and now I'm cutting off genitalia, slicing them open, cutting their throats, blood everywhere, blood all over you, dismembering, removing organs. You you know, you see most people that for whatever reason are driven to the point of murder, and they are murderers, they've done it more than once. um, they don't do this kind of stuff. this is a very particular type of effed up in the head. You know,
It's fair, yeah.
it
Well,
really is. I mean, you don't just go do that because you want to kill people. You know, this is like someone's getting off on this. You know,
probably, yeah. Well,
no pun intended. Jesus.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that Jack was. So either way,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm sure.
yeah, the Ripper murders definitely tapped more into a deeper societal fear, just because
Yeah.
it was like, you know, a monster lurking in the shadows.
And there's less safety back then too. Like you're not
Oh,
driving around in a
yeah.
car where you can lock a door. You
No,
don't have access to a lot of the stuff we do nowadays.
no,
I
not at
mean,
all. Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely more of a reason to be
Mhm.
cautious all the time. You know?
Yeah. So now here comes the part that I am actually pretty excited about, and read about earlier. Uh, so obviously,
Oh,
over a
why you gotta be
century,
Polish?
huh?
Why you gotta be
Why?
Polish?
Why'd you gotta ruin it, man?
God.
DNA evidence recently has pointed strongly towards Aaron Kosminski, who was one of the main suspects
Oh,
during
really?
their
Okay.
during the initial investigation. He was a 23-year-old Polish immigrant living in Whitechapel. He worked as a barber, and at time of the murders was, like I said, a suspect in the original piece of investigation. Yeah. So I just want to point out, back in that time, barbers were more than just barbers. Like, they would actually do minor surgeries. Like, Sweeney Todd was a barber of that time, and you know, he was very, very good with a knife. But like the barber pole, how it's red and white, it's because they literally did minor surgeries. They would cut stuff off of your head. Like, if you had bump, gone. Like, so
Yeah, I'll let my hair grow out.
yeah. So I mean, like, they definitely had the skill. So, however, at the time they lacked concrete evidence, so they were unable to prosecute him. However, years later, forensic techniques have obviously advanced amazingly, and DNA extracted from a shawl that was believed to have belonged to Catherine Eddowes, the fourth victim, was analyzed. Multiple studies has obviously increased the sophistication over the years, and they found a strong match between this DNA and that of Kaminsky's known descendants.
So I already have questions.
Yeah.
So what I'm reading says this guy's saying in 2007 he bought a shawl that was found at the scene of the murder of Catherine Eddowes,
Hmm.
and I'm wondering, okay, um, forget authenticity. Are we sure? I'm not going that route, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, who knows? But how was this thing kept for that long? How was it actually kept?
I have no idea.
DNA degrades, right? It's going to degrade, and it's not like was this in a sealed environment the whole time? Not from 1888. It sure as shit wasn't.
I literally have no idea how they
Yeah.
kept it.
Well, that's what my point is 1888 up to a certain point. There would have
Yeah.
been no really good way of preserving that. The DNA would have
Totally
faded.
understand.
I mean, it
Yeah,
just brings
yeah,
up
yeah, I
questions
know.
now.
Hang on.
How do we
I know.
know?
Hang on. So, like, obviously, the genetic material that was used for the analysis weren't from Kaminsky himself, but individuals that are known to have been related to him,
Mhm.
tracing his maternal lineage. This strengthens the link as it avoids some of the contamination concerns that arise with older samples. While some debate remains about the handling and preservation of the shawl, thank you so much for getting to a point I was getting to. And the
Hey, I'll point out the
interpretation
questions
of the
when they come
DNA
up.
results.
You never know, man. It's News Nation. The one I'm looking at.
Yeah. The overwhelming weight of scientific evidence, specifically the lineage-based matching, points to Kaminsky as the most likely candidate for Jack the Ripper. Now, owie. Now, obviously it's not he's the one, but his DNA, I believe it was his sperm, was found on the shawl, is what they were saying. And
Surprise.
yeah, surprise. And that's how it was traced to, I mean,
God damn, didn't they have socks back then?
uh yes, but I don't think he really was caring about that at that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
uh but yeah, I thought that was really interesting. I love the fact that DNA is just coming through and solving a whole bunch of like cold cases, or helping move along cold cases, like
Mhm.
the episode that we did about Roanoke, how the DNA has shown that, you know, they didn't just disappear, they didn't just die off, they moved off that island and interbred with the Indian population, as shown by DNA tests. So I really love the fact that we've come into a point where we've gotten well enough into uh our sophistication of certain methods that we
Right.
can pull and, you know, be confident on an older sample.
Yeah, I would definitely like to talk to a professional in
Oh, for
that
sure,
field,
for
like
sure,
an
for sure.
expert, and see. And not that I mean, I'm questioning it, but I'm not questioning it. I would
I just
want,
want more
I
details
want to
on the
know. Yeah.
method.
Yeah.
How, like, what happens to the DNA? Like, how, like,
Yeah. How long
what
does it,
degrades? How long does it take? Yeah, how long does
yeah.
it take? What part degrades? Like,
Let me bring up a picture real quick. Let
yeah,
me
yeah,
bring it up
yeah,
right
yeah,
now.
yeah,
This is
yeah, yeah,
a composite drawing of this guy, Kosminski. I want to point out, maybe you're probably getting there, that at the time of his death in 1919, he was in a mental health facility with schizophrenia. Surprise. Hey, no joke.
yeah.
I got a friend who has a brother, stepbrother, who has schizophrenia. And when we were young, we're talking, uh, it might have been like seventh, eighth grade. Could have been early high school. I was over there one night and parents went out to eat, and it was just the three of us. Well, the stepbrother wound up going to bed or something. I don't know, but upstairs in his bedroom, I'm pretty sure he went to bed. Well, later, my friend and I wound up going up the stairs. I don't remember why. It might have been to see what he was up to or something. I don't know. But we went up the stairs and he had just come out of his room and he was walking down the stairs like a zombie, just like he was sleepwalking. It was really weird. But he also tried to off my friend's mom in the kitchen once. There's probably other things. So, schizophrenia is no joke. It
No,
make you do things. It's really sad too, because
it
these
is.
people probably wouldn't be like that was it not for this, and now they're
Mm-hmm.
going to be done for life if caught, which I
Mm-hmm.
mean they should be, but schizophrenia is no yoke.
No, not at all. We also had a family member who unfortunately attempted to off another family member due to schizophrenia.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it
Well,
really is no joke. So
you
I
know,
mean,
Kosminski, let me, well, his picture, let me bring his picture back up. I should have left it up for a sec. You know what's interesting about his picture, which has no relation to any of this? He looks like, have you seen the new Top Gun? The new Top Gun movie, guys. You all seen it.
no.
Okay.
Oh
He
god.
looks like Goose's son, or, yeah, Rooster. He looks like that actor. Um,
No,
yeah, he totally does.
hold on.
To an extent, and it's probably the little bit of the hair or the shadow above the lip there, but he kind of looks
Oh,
like
I
him.
hate you. Oh my god.
Yeah,
He does. I can't.
I know he does. That's why I said it.
Oh, oh my
He
god.
reminds me of him. And what's interesting, look at his name, Kaminsky's,
Bradley
right?
Bradshaw, that's his name.
Yeah, Kosminski, he Kaczynski kind of sounds like the dude from the movie. Also, I what's the other guy's name? Tom Cruise's, in the original Top Gun, Iceman.
Nope.
That guy. What's that guy's name? Val Kilmer.
Tom
Um,
Kazansky?
Kazansky. this name reminds me of that. Before even seeing the picture,
Because it's
his
Paul.
name just reminds me of that. Interesting. I think there's relation between this guy and Top Gun.
Oh,
Anyways,
Jesus.
I'll let you continue. He looks like Bradley
Yeah.
Bradshaw, whatever. Just
He,
saying.
he does.
I can't unsee that.
No, I mean, that was really it. Obviously nothing was done back then. They couldn't find who did it, so it just went cold. They had so many different suspects. They had one called, I know it wasn't Baker, but it was like, there was an American who was staying in England during the time, and he was kind of a scam artist. He said that he was a doctor. He really wasn't a doctor. He was seen kind of in the vicinity of Whitechapel uh, around that same time. And then he was also spotted coming back to his boarding house around 2 a.m. one of the nights. And on one of the videos I was watching, they had walked from one of the scenes of the murder back to where he was staying, and they were saying, "Yeah, I mean, he could have made it back there within this time." But that was, man, there are so many rabbit holes to fall down with
Oh,
this
yeah.
one that it would literally be an episode per suspect, like just the evidence, how and how not, and. But that I just avoided a lot of it simply because I wanted to focus on the DNA aspect.
So I found something in this article regarding the question I had brought up about the
Mm.
shawl. Just FYI, it was just sitting in a police filing cabinet for over a decade.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, well, of course. But talk about DNA degrading. You know, what I want to know what period of time this was. That might mean the difference between a metal versus wooden filing cabinet. I don't know what they used back then.
Yeah.
Right. So, but either way, it's touching the wood. It's probably metal. Touching the metal. You got that. You got other things being thrown around in there. Like, who keeps this? Like, what? Don't you have an evidence room? Even back then.
I mean,
want that in my
maybe
filing
it might
cabinet.
have been in a box in an evidence room.
Maybe the filing cabinet is the evidence, where they keep it.
I mean, it might have been in the evidence room in a filing cabinet. I don't know.
Yeah. Huh.
I genuinely do not know how they kept it, but yeah, it would be really interesting to talk to somebody to see more about like the scientific breakdown of DNA
Mhm.
over time and what extra elemental effects degrade it more or less and stuff like that. So yeah, that would be cool. But yeah, so that's the newest information on the mystery of Jack the Ripper.
So going back to the original idea here, which was off of, it just came out semi recently, right?
A couple days ago.
They found him, right? So in this article, listen to this. Forensic DNA interpretation expert Jarrett Ambow told News Nation there is nowhere near enough information to definitively identify Jack the Ripper, calling the claim a mile off. He said the DNA testing used was mitochondrial, which is not as accurate as nuclear DNA. It doesn't have the kind of power to identify someone individually that nuclear DNA has, or cellular DNA. We have the second problem of the fact that this DNA is degraded over the years. The shawl that was used for testing was not preserved as evidence. Interesting. It was not preserved as evidence. What about all the other people that touched this item in the 137 years between the date of the murder and the date it was tested? Information just isn't there in the science to be able to show exactly when the DNA was deposited and by whom. Now,
I understand that. I
if
totally
the DNA
understand the other
led them
side.
to this guy, to these people, to this family, and it just so happened that this guy was a suspect back then, okay, now we're getting back into, coincidences, that's a very unlikely
That's-
coincidence.
That's
to
not
happen.
a coincidence. That's
That's a 1 in a million
Yeah,
trillion shot,
like-
you know? Jesus.
like I understand that people may disagree with the method that was used and they have their opinions, but again, yes, if the results show due to testing of the maternal line of known descendants from Kosminski, and it does test back to the family that, and the DNA
Yeah.
found on it, it doesn't matter who the hell touched it. It
Well, it does.
I mean, the fact
yeah,
it does,
I see
yes.
what you mean.
But at the same time, did the prime suspect of this murder really go into the police room, fidget around in this box, and leave his, whatever all over it? Like,
Right.
I'd
I'd like to see more on the evidence they have on the DNA test and how they came to conclusion. Like, how
Yeah.
close was it? Well, no, he already had the DNA from the family line, so he performed this DNA test, which wasn't as accurate as it should have been. You know what he should have used. And now that he knows what that DNA line looks like, now he's just trying to pick and pull anything he can out. Like, was it something like that, or was it? Hey, look at this, boom, 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 match them up in a computer. How's he doing it exactly? And I'm not trying to discount any of it. I'm just saying, it'd definitely be nice to, to know about that and see, just how accurate does this guy, what he did, just how accurate was that? How'd he do it? What's drawing him to the
Mhm.
conclusion that this is 100%? Because he says it, 100%. It's him. He believes, right? So.
Mhm.
It'd be
So
interesting.
he did actually. Russell Edwards did do a interview, something like that. He did show up
Mhm.
on News Nation to defend himself.
Okay.
Yep. He was on an episode of Banfield, apparently.
Okay.
He says that without a doubt it's 100% him. He tested the shell using Kaminsky's oldest brother's great granddaughter. I'm sure you probably saw that same article because
No, I
there's
didn't
his
read too
face.
much.
Yeah, I mean, he did go on to at least defend himself, so he's confident.
Well,
I want to know more scientifically as to what
Yeah.
he did. I would like for him to come out with that in a not per se
Yeah.
in a journal,
let's
but
look
I would
at,
like for him to publish that.
Let's look at another. Let me share one more thing right now. Just some photos of 1888 Whitechapel. What this place looked like might give you an idea. Kind of interesting. I mean, is what it is, but it's not just all old Western town ish.
Well, no.
Kind of,
With
but
3
obviously
million
it's
people
England.
all stacked on top of each other? No, not at
Yeah,
all.
you can see it actually is fairly well built up. So yeah, you could easily, I guess, in this picture right here, if this is actually there at that time. Yeah, I guess at least during the day, you could easily get in and out of there without anyone really batting an eye at you for not living there or something. I mean, look
Yeah.
at that congestion. It's like,
So, I just wanted to point out that during that time, indoor plumbing was not a thing. It probably
Mhm.
was disgusting.
So that brings up something else. You say that because I was thinking this a minute ago. I was going to bring it up. You got to think about when this was. How easy is it to clean up after this? And I'm only referring to himself because you can't just walk out of these rooms looking like you just got in a fight with a bear.
Didn't we
Someone's gonna
discuss
notice.
this with the Lizzie Borden case as well?
Don't know.
Pretty sure we did.
I don't know. But you gotta imagine, like, he had to have had other clothing with him. There's no way he
Probably,
didn't, there's no way he didn't get this stuff all over himself. So you gotta wash up the hands. If any of that dries, it's gonna be harder getting it off. Whatever, you could do that. but the clothing, man,
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right.
unless they're just wearing a big plastic apron.
They didn't have plastic, they had leather.
Right.
Bless me.
No, it's not going to do anything for you.
You're right. I
Bless me.
tried.
Well, yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. Ugh, I don't know. I mean, he should have picked criminals at least, you know? I mean, man, maybe prostitution was criminal back then.
I mean, to some people,
Sure.
yeah,
But,
it was.
but I mean, like real criminals, you
Mm.
know, like violent crimes.
I know, but some people, like, there were some probably super pious, religious, holier than thou people who looked down their bony
Oh, I'm
little
sure.
noses
Yeah.
at prostitutes and probably was like, if I could, I would. And
And it just takes a schizophrenic.
apparently,
Yeah. Well,
yep.
I'll leave this one with questions because I have questions. I'm not discounting any of it. Just saying, you know, some of these other things would be nice to know because the biggest thing for me is that DNA degradation, and now we know for a fact that
Yep.
thing was not kept as evidence. So where the hell was it? How many people touched it?
I
What kind
feel
of stuff
like
with the DNA, and how could that have
more
affected the results?
I feel like the longer we wait, the more that will come out for this, and hopefully we'll get more details about that. And
I don't know because this really isn't that popular, and I'm only saying that because I look at one or more news apps daily, probably at least twice a day.
Mm.
This is the first time here I've heard it.
Really, man, I guess
Yeah.
maybe Google just understands my algorithm.
Well, it's not Google. I'm pulling up news sites.
Yeah, no,
and
it was
nothing.
on like my Google homepage. Like
Yeah.
that's what I do every morning. I go to my Google homepage and I scroll endlessly through all the articles, and it was one of those.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, interesting.
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah,
glad
just-
I wasn't alive back then.
Same.
You know, which it's so funny because you always hear, like, I've thought it for a long time, and I know other people, you know, I know have like, oh man, would have been so cool. And I think it's just because we're at a point in our lives in history right now where humanity's probably wanting change more now than in a long time. I think people are ready. I think people want some type of change. I think it's too monotonous, too boring. You know, I really get that feeling that that's where we're headed. But man, you know, we've always said some people, you've all heard it. Oh, that would have been so cool to be alive back then, walk around town on the dirt road with my 6-shooter and get drunk in the bar and this and that, blah blah. You know, because it's sensationalized in the movies, and that's what we see.
And it's something. It's just different than what we know.
The
Yeah.
life expectancy alone without the crime
It's
was
like
not
40.
great.
No.
And then with the crime, man, like death was among them. You know?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
It-
just playing the Oregon Trail as a kid should have given you an idea that you weren't going to live long. I mean, honestly, in the Victorian days, you had a very small chance of living past the age of 5, let alone
Yeah.
living the entirety of your life. The reason they lived until like their 40s or their 50s is because like they had lead and arsenic in their food, and green the green fabric was like
sounds like America current day.
yeah. And half like their bread was mostly like, instead of being flour, it was like sawdust or
Yeah.
chalk.
Need those preservatives and
They
fillers.
put what did they put in their milk? Because they thought it was going to like
Jesus.
they put weird
Jeez, so
shit in their
people-
milk.
So what you're saying is people have actually been stupid for a long time.
Oh yeah. Well, no, it wasn't that. It wasn't even the fact that people were stupid. It was because of
know.
the fact that there was absolutely no regulation on food, and companies didn't care, and they
Yeah.
used everything they possibly could to keep things cheap.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's
So
a trend that's never changed.
yeah.
Wow.
Food safety regulations should
Yeah.
definitely be a thing that stays around, because
Yeah.
you know,
I mean,
Listeria and E. coli and all that stuff is actually not great. And the
yeah.
upsurge of it recently in the past couple of years is quite concerning. Like,
There's for any of y'all out in California, if you've never been there, there's a really cool ghost town called Bodie, and
yeah.
it's in the Sierra Mountains by Mono Lake, near Bridgeport, California. Um, if you're ever going on vacation, I'd recommend you go up there, go camping or something. Go to that area and check out Bodie. Massive ghost town. It's huge. All original buildings are there. The ones that weren't burnt down in one of the 2 or 3 fires they had that destroyed a ton of stuff. It's an old mining town. They have I mean, you literally have the dirt street with the raised wooden buildings and everything. You got the saloon, you got the church. A lot of it is barred up. You can go up to like the doors that are completely open and fully see in there and everything. Some of them you can actually go into. It's all original. You know, they've done what they can to make sure what's there, what's remaining hasn't fallen down. You can see the huge mining buildings up on the
That's
hill.
so cool.
You can walk up there. You can't go in them. But it's really cool because it's a real ghost town. It's not like something that was here 100, 150, 200 years ago, and everything's gone and they recreated it. No, this
It's
is the original
actually-
stuff. And
yeah.
there's a ton of buildings there. It's really cool. It's in the middle of nowhere, but it gives you a really good idea if you are into westerns of what a western town, big or small, would have been like. And it's interesting, you know, kind of spooky too. So
Shit.
cool. Well,
Yeah.
Jack the Ripper, get a grip, buddy.
More like
glad
maybe
you're not here.
instead of being Jack the Ripper, it's Aaron the Ripper. But
Yeah, more like Jack the Cutter, but maybe it's because he's ripping organs out. A lot of that.
yeah, I mean, again, sensationalized by the media. So I mean, Ripper sounds good. Ripper sounds good.
Sure. I just wonder what he was ripping, but Jack the Ripper. Oh man.
Ripping apart them bodies.
All right. Well, like, share, subscribe, you know, blah, blah, blah. If you got a story of your own, send us the email. It's right there. Middle finger too. obscuredr1@gmail. That was an accident. I'm holding something in my other fingers. Send us email, obscuredr1@gmail. If you got a story of your own, we'll tell it for you. You can stay anonymous. If you want to be on the show, let us know in the email. You can come on and tell your own story anonymously as well. Video, no video, up to you. That'd be cool. If you have any knowledge of Jack the Ripper, maybe you were married to him, you'd be pretty old. Maybe he's a long lost relative of yours. I don't know. You got some inside information. That'd be cool. But with that said, I think we're going to get out. You got anything else on this?
No.
You done?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm going to go dream about Jack the Ripper.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to check back with us often for new episodes. Feel free to drop a comment and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Obscured Reality.